Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking an absolute masterclass in brevity. We're going to meticulously unpack every nerve-shredding detail hidden within a deceptively brief 60-second movie review of the 2015 film Green Room. You know, it takes a ton of skill to communicate that much heavy atmosphere with such a tight economy of words, but the text we're breaking down today, it does it flawlessly. So buckle up, because we're going to extract every last drop of adrenaline from this source material and see exactly why this film demands your attention.
Okay, let's dive into this. Right out of the gate, the reviewer does not hold back. Just look at this quote. One of the most intense survival thrillers you'll ever watch. I mean, wow, that is a massive, incredibly audacious claim to drop in your opening line, right? They aren't just casually saying, hey, it's a good movie. They're setting incredibly high stakes and actively challenging us. By categorizing it specifically as a survival thriller, the review instantly establishes the raw, primal nature of the plot. We aren't dealing with some slow-burn mystery here. We're dealing with life or death, and the reviewer is promising an experience that will absolutely push the boundaries of your own pulse.
Section 1. A simple gig gone wrong. Let's see how the reviewer frames the mundane setup of this plot before the absolute descent into chaos. Notice how the reviewer perfectly maps out this rapid-fire descent. First, we start with our protagonists, a struggling punk band playing what is supposed to be just a simple gig. Honestly, usually the biggest threat there is just not getting paid. But then, step 2, bam, they are witnessing a brutal murder. And immediately we hit step 3, plunging directly into a terrifying fight for survival. The very structure of this sentence mimics the breakneck pacing of the film itself. The acceleration from a mundane, everyday artist scenario straight into absolute, heart-pounding terror is completely abrupt. You can almost feel the floor dropping out from underneath these characters just by following the progression of those 3 simple steps.
So, the crucial point is where exactly this nightmare is taking place. The reviewer specifically highlights that the band becomes trapped inside a remote club, and I really want to emphasize that word remote. This physical isolation is the entire driving force of the thriller. They aren't just locked in a room in the middle of a bustling city where someone might actually hear them scream. No, they are entirely cut off. By underlining the remote nature of this location, the reviewer makes it crystal clear to the audience that no help is coming. The protagonists are completely on their own, and that geographic isolation acts as a literal incubator for the terror that follows.
Moving on to Section 2, Powerful and Chilling Performances. The terrifying plot is anchored by an incredible casting dynamic.
And this brilliantly illustrates the stark contrast at the heart of the movie. On one hand, the review highlights Anton Yelchin's powerful and emotional performance. He really represents the humanity, the frantic panic, and the desperate will to survive of this trapped punk band. But then, on the other hand, it points to Patrick Stewart, describing him as a chillingly calm yet ruthless villain. Just sit with that juxtaposition for a second. You have the raw, chaotic, totally emotional energy of Yelchin's protagonist, smashing directly into the cold, calculated, and just unsettlingly composed ruthlessness of Stewart's villain. The reviewer spends time on this contrast to let us know exactly where the immense friction and dread in this movie come from.
Which brings us to Section 3, Smart Direction, Relentless Suspense. Let's look at how director Jeremy Saulnier actually executes this nightmare.
Let's methodically unpack these specific atmospheric pillars that the reviewer praises. First, they note that the tension is kept high from beginning to end. Seriously, there are no lulls, no moments to catch your breath. Second, and this is absolutely key, the violence is realistic. It's not hyper-stylized or overly choreographed. It's gritty, it's grounded, and that is what makes the danger feel so incredibly immediate. Third, they attribute this to smart direction, meaning none of the scares feel cheap or unearned. And finally, relentless suspense. Every single one of these visceral phrases chosen by the reviewer is expertly designed to make you preemptively feel that promised tension before you even hit play.
Now this brings us to what might just be the most impactful line in the entire review. Every decision feels dangerous. Let that sink in for a second. The director's choices have created a scenario so entirely suffocating that this struggling punk band has 0 safe options left. Think about it. If they stay put, they die. If they run, they die. When every single choice carries a lethal risk, the suspense becomes agonizing. The reviewer uses this specific phrase to perfectly encapsulate the absolute paralyzing dread of being trapped in a completely no-win scenario.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how the reviewer describes the ultimate achievement of the film here. They explicitly state that the movie makes you feel physically confined alongside the characters. It goes way beyond just watching a movie on a screen. It becomes this wild exercise in empathy through claustrophobia. The smart direction, the realistic violence, that isolated, remote location, it all funnels down into projecting that inescapable, terrifying box directly onto you, the viewer. You aren't just passively observing their fight for survival. The review promises you're going to feel like you are locked in that green room right next to them.
Let's move to and see how this builds into Section 4, the final 9 out of 10 verdict.
Here, the reviewer wraps things up by building a highly specific viewer persona. It's essentially a checklist for exactly who will consider this film a must-watch experience. Are you a fan of edge-of-your-seat thrillers? Check. Are you seeking strong performances? Check. Again, courtesy of Yelchin and Stewart. Are you craving non-stop tension? Check. The review takes all the intense, terrifying elements we just broke down and cleverly repackages them as the ultimate selling points for a very specific type of moviegoer. If you check these exact boxes, the reviewer guarantees this film is for you.
Which leads us to the final score, a 9 out of 10. Think about the sheer authority of that number, a near-perfect rating for a 2015 survival thriller. It completely validates every single claim of relentless suspense and brilliant acting made in the preceding 60 seconds. It is the reviewer stamping their absolute, undeniable seal of approval on Jeremy Saulnier's terrifying vision.
So, we've seen how just a few carefully chosen words can sketch out an absolute masterpiece of claustrophobia, a brilliant protagonist-villain dynamic, and an atmosphere of relentless dread. The reviewer laid out a flawless blueprint of exactly what makes this movie so uniquely terrifying. So knowing all of this, knowing about the remote club, the hyper-realistic violence, and a nightmare scenario where every single decision is dangerous, the only question left for you based on this brilliant review is, are you ready to feel trapped?